Three workers stand near a stack of heavy steel I-beams resting on supports. The stack appears to be poorly secured. One man begins to unhook a strap, and the loss of that support causes the entire pile to become unstable. The heavy beams slide off their supports and cascade to the ground, pinning one of the workers underneath. His colleagues desperately try to move the immensely heavy beams to free him. This demonstrates a critical failure in material storage. Heavy, unsecured loads are a constant hazard. They must be properly stacked, chocked, and secured, and bindings should only be removed when the load is stabilized by a lifting device. A woman in a lab coat stands in the lobby of a clinic as a visitor enters through a large, frameless glass door. As the visitor closes the door behind her, it suddenly detaches from its overhead pivot hinge. The massive sheet of tempered glass falls and explodes on impact with the floor, sending shards everywhere. The employee inside is startled, but manages to avoid the main impact. This type of failure points to improper installation or worn-out hardware. The fittings for heavy glass doors require regular inspection and maintenance to ensure they can safely support the weight. Inside a factory, one worker is bent over near a long textile machine. The worker's loose clothing gets caught on a low-profile rotating roller. He is instantly flipped and violently dragged into the machinery. This is another severe entanglement incident caused by an unguarded rotating part. Even seemingly slow-moving components can be incredibly dangerous. Machine guarding and prohibiting loose clothing are critical preventative measures that were ignored here. At a construction site, workers are guiding a crane-lifted concrete bucket into position. One man stands directly in the load's swing path to maneuver it by hand. The load shifts unexpectedly, striking him squarely in the head and knocking him to the ground unconscious. Suspended loads must only be guided using tag lines from a safe distance. Placing yourself in the path of a swinging load puts you at the mercy of physics, a risk no one should ever take. A worker guides a thick metal wire onto a large, rotating spooling machine. His gloved hand gets too close and is caught between the wire and the spool. The machine's torque instantly pulls him off his feet, slamming him against the frame as his arm is dragged into the mechanism. This type of entanglement happens in a split second. Guiding materials should be done with appropriate tools from a safe distance, and all rotating parts require proper guarding to prevent any possibility of contact. In a commercial bakery, a worker is cleaning around a massive industrial dough mixer while the safety cage is lifted up. As she bends down, a co-worker walks up to the machine and, without checking his surroundings, activates it. The powerful mixing hook starts to rotate, catching the woman and pulling her into the bowl. The other workers rush in panic to stop the machine and help their gravely injured colleague. This is a catastrophic failure to follow lockout-tagout procedures. The machine should have been completely de-energized and locked before any cleaning began. The safety guard was bypassed, and the operator failed to ensure the area was clear before starting the equipment. In a processing facility, a massive bulk bag of granular material is suspended from a hoist. A worker climbs onto a metal cart, positioning himself directly underneath the 1-ton bag to cut it open from the bottom. The moment he punctures the bag, the lifting loops fail, and the entire load collapses on top of him, burying him completely. His co-workers are forced into a desperate and lengthy rescue, digging through the material by hand to find him. This is a fatal mistake, born from ignoring the most fundamental rule of lifting: never work under a suspended load. The bag should have been securely placed in a proper discharging station before being opened. This tragic event demonstrates how a shortcut can lead to the ultimate price, leaving colleagues to deal with the horrifying aftermath of a decision that took only seconds to make. In a commercial kitchen, a deep fryer catches fire. A worker panics and throws a container of liquid, almost certainly water, onto the flames. This causes a violent eruption, spreading the grease fire. After the initial mistake, he reacts correctly by grabbing a fire extinguisher to put out the blaze. This is a crucial lesson. Never use water on a grease fire. Water vaporizes instantly, spreading burning oil. The proper response is to smother the fire with a lid or use a Class K fire extinguisher specifically designed for kitchen fires. In a mining tunnel, a worker pushes a heavy cart toward an elevator shaft. He opens the protective gate and, without verifying that the elevator car is actually there, pushes the cart into the void. He and the cart plummet down the open shaft. Safety interlocks that prevent gates from opening unless the elevator is present are critical. This tragic assumption highlights the rule to always look and confirm before you proceed. A person walks down a narrow alleyway between warehouse buildings. Behind them, a forklift carrying a load that obstructs the operator's forward view is traveling in the same direction. The operator, unable to see the pedestrian, continues forward and runs the person over. This is a primary rule of forklift safety. If your forward view is blocked by a load, you must travel in reverse. Using a horn at intersections and having designated pedestrian paths are also crucial measures to prevent this type of accident. At a lumber yard, a forklift operator attempts to lift a tall, heavy, and unstable stack of wooden panels. As the forks rise, the machine's center of gravity shifts forward, causing it to become dangerously unbalanced. The entire forklift tips forward, sending the massive load crashing down onto a nearby worker who is instantly pinned beneath the immense weight. This fatal error was caused by exceeding the forklift's rated load capacity. Operators must be trained to read and understand their vehicle's load chart and never attempt to lift a load that is too heavy or unstable. In a scrap metal recycling plant, a worker climbs into a massive baling press to clear a jam, placing himself in an extremely dangerous position. While he is inside, an excavator operator working nearby drops a load of scrap, startling the man. As he tries to get out, the press unexpectedly begins its compression cycle. The powerful hydraulic ram activates, trapping and crushing the man inside the machine before he can escape. This is a horrifying failure of lockout, tag-out procedures. Before any worker enters a machine for maintenance, all energy sources must be completely shut off and locked to prevent accidental activation. This procedure would have saved his life. In a cramped warehouse aisle, two employees stand talking, oblivious to the high-reach forklift operating behind them. The operator lifts a pallet high into the racking, but the load is unbalanced. The entire pallet of goods slides off the forks and falls onto the workers below. Pedestrians must always be aware of their surroundings and never stand under a suspended load. Inside an automated factory, a worker leans over a conveyor, putting himself in the path of a robotic arm. The machine activates unexpectedly, striking the man. As colleagues rush to help, a second robot further down the line malfunctions, swinging its arm and hitting another worker. This chain reaction points to a systemic failure of the safety systems. Proper light curtains, pressure mats, or sensors should automatically shut down all robots in a zone the moment a human enters. At a gas station, an attendant is crouched down cleaning a spill. The driver of a white SUV, who had just been refueling, gets into their vehicle and pulls away, without checking their blind spots. The car turns directly into the low-profile attendant, knocking him over and dragging him several feet before stopping. This shows the critical importance of situational awareness for both drivers and workers. Drivers must be vigilant in pedestrian-heavy areas. while ground workers should use cones to create a visible safety barrier around their immediate workspace. At a recycling facility, a man is using a long pole to push material into a large industrial shredder. He is leaning far over the machine's opening in a precarious position. Another worker approaches from behind and throws more material into the shredder's hopper. This sudden influx causes the machine to violently grab the first worker's pole, pulling him in after it. This horrific accident was caused by a complete lack of machine guarding and poor communication between workers. At a factory, a man walks through an open area below a mezzanine. Without warning, a massive, heavy roll of fabric falls from the level above, landing directly on top of him. This incident highlights the absolute importance of securing all materials stored at height, using tow boards, netting, or other barriers to prevent objects from falling. In a warehouse, a forklift operator places a crate on a truck. He then gets off the forklift, leaving it running with the forks raised and, most importantly, without setting the parking brake. As he walks in front of the machine to adjust the load, the forklift begins to roll forward on the slight incline. He is trapped and crushed between the multi-ton vehicle and the truck. This fatal accident was caused by ignoring the most fundamental rule of forklift safety. Before dismounting, always lower the forks, set the parking brake, and put the machine in neutral.